Susan Messing, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for coming over, John.
Yeah, no problem.
That's very nice of you to come over on your day off.
Well, there's no days off when improv is your
Is your moral guide. Oh, God bless.
My first question to you is
Why?
Yeah,
Why haven't they killed you yet? Because if they did, there'd be somebody celebrating.
Why a career in improv? No, they say public speaking is the number one fear that people have.
Oh. Really?
Yeah. Over death.
Public speaking over being chased out of your home by fire?
I mean, I don't know how specific
over Hitler if he were still alive?
Public speaking.
Public speaking. Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
At what age did you realize that being the center of attention wasn't a big deal for you?
I don't see it as that per se.
Sure.
Like, how old were you when? I think my whole life has been about being brave, which is having fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So even like in 2015, I had to give a TED talk and I had to memorize my own words, which were just so gross.
Right.
And maybe 2014, I can't remember, or something around there. I did one for the University of Chicago, and I was fucking terrified. But I was like, okay, little hypocrite, you're telling how to, you're teaching people how to deal with fear. Mm-hmm. Your turn again. So I guess I guess it was not something that I discovered there was an age, but how comfortable you were with handling fear.
Yeah, sure.
So I guess I've always thought that being brave or having fear is something to conquer, and that even though it never ends, that I'm still willing to put myself in the fire. Because I've discovered, through my husband being sick and then a pandemic, that I don't need to be in front of a lot of people. Like, don't care.
Right.
Like, don't care. I mean, I get enough doing a show or teaching people. That's enough public chunk of time that I'm with. Mm-hmm. And even after the pandemic, the Annoyance had a soft opening. And I remember turning to a student and saying, kindly, but saying, I'm so sorry, I have no small talk left. Do you know what I mean? Like, that feeling of just like...
Your social battery being drained.
Oh, it's not even just like that I've discovered I'm an introvert, but that I'm just not good at it.
Sure.
I mean, maybe I work it every day so that I get better at it, but it's not natural to me. I don't think any of this shit's natural to any of us. I think if we all had our dithers, we would probably be curling up in a corner with our favorite snack and crying, naked, sobbing on a cold tile floor, right? I mean, am I the only one?
But some people are naturally funny.
Yeah, well, naturally funny doesn't mean necessarily they want to do it in front of a bunch of people.
That's very true.
Some of my funniest friends are nowhere near comedy, and they're nowhere near public speaking.
Right.
But it definitely is something that you can learn to manage. Mm-hmm. That is something that I'm always figuring out ways to nip and tuck. And when I figure out something that makes myself feel better, then I share it immediately so that other people can suffer less than I do. I'm basically like, you send me out to make sure there's no sharks in the water. And then when I go, oh yeah, I got bit on the leg, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have covered myself in blood. Guys, don't cover yourself in blood, because they like that. Yeah.
Was your family funny growing up?
My dad was super funny. My dad was the funniest person I ever met, but he was super dry. It was the kind of funny that you had to kind of lean in and go, are you making a joke or are you serious?
Right.
That was my dad. And I will say this to my mother's credit, because my parents had a really long, shitty divorce. He was funny until it was cruel. And then I think I learned at a very young age about what it is to punch up and punch down.
Sure.
So I think that if my dad were still alive, God rest his soul, or my father used to say, had to bury him, dead, Yeah, right? And then I was like, this is funny until he died. But I don't know. I just don't think that it's... I learned a lot about how to protect content through my dad, because had he been alive now, I think he would have been a trumper. I think he would have gotten that kind of cruel and that kind of sense of entitlement that people who have more than others have.
Growing up in New Jersey, was Northwestern always your plan?
No, I didn't know anything about anything in the Midwest. Everything to me was like East Coast.
Sure.
So what happened was the summer between my junior and senior year, my mother suggested I go to something called the National High School Institute.
Okay.
They call us cherubs, the people who attend, I guess, because their behavior is horrible. But what it is it's an intensive 5-week program in things like forensics, not forensic medicine, but like speaking, I guess, which we really didn't have debate shit in my school, but theater and music and a bunch of stuff. Basically, the Northwestern campus for 5 weeks is kind of overrun by these students.
Okay.
My mother had been a journalism cherub when she was the summer between her junior and senior year, so she suggested this program. So I went to it and I fell in love with Northwestern. I didn't know it existed. I also am a little wary of colleges that say like the Harvard of the Midwest. I'm like, shut the fuck up. And besides, if there's a Harvard of the Midwest, it's going to be University of Chicago, not Northwestern. No offense. Northwestern had a good loophole in their application process where they weren't going to kick you out for a lack of talent. They knew who I was. My grades at the time were certainly good enough. My test scores must have made me look like I was special ed because they were bad, but I always had good grades. I was a good student, a good solid student, and you didn't have to audition because if they did, they'd kind of be like, one of the things about Northwestern is it looks like a conservatory, but you do have to take broad-based liberal arts classes. But from 2 p.m. on, if you have to do crew, they own you. So we had our labor. We had it nice and tight. And they would say things to you like, see that asbestos-covered lighting cord that you're wrapping so well? You do that. You sure you don't want to be in lighting? Because they're looking at you like you will never be an actor. The people who came to Northwestern who were great were great. I don't know if people had epiphanies as students there. Although my teacher, David Downs, was brilliant, I didn't even understand what the fuck he was talking about until after I graduated. And then I went, oh, now I get it. It was improv, me taking the doggy door, that made me stay in the arts. And it did make my acting better. It did make my communication skills better.
Right.
Applied improvisation changes a lot. So I mean, improv sort of saved me as an artist.
Sure.
I think because my mother would probably rather I turned into the clinical child psychologist that I could have been and probably been very good at it.
So when you went to Northwestern, was the plan liberal arts or was the plan?
No, so I was in the theater department. I was in the
Okay.
school. I guess they call it was the School of Speech before. Now it's called the School of Communication. But I got a bachelor in science in theater. Meanwhile, but my best friend from high school, Leslie, got a bachelor of arts in science at Harvard. So go figure. She's a doctor and she didn't get a bachelor of science. I never understood that. So, but I was a theater major and good luck to me. And then after I graduated, I discovered improv and I was like, oh, you don't have to butcher Shakespeare and Ibsen and Chekhov. You leave that to the experts.
Right.
You get to do make-em-ups, which is really all you wanted to do.
Right.
So
Were
I didn't
you-
know that, but then I discovered that.
Sure. Were you nervous moving from New Jersey to Chicago?
No, it was kind of natural because since when you do like the baby steps, then when you take the big step, you're like, oh, like for me, like I could move back to LA, poor LA, I love them so much, but I could move back to LA anytime because I know the layout. For me, it's kind of knowing where you are.
Sure.
And because I had done the National High School Institute, I already knew Northwestern. Because I was at Northwestern, I was entering Chicago, you know, so everything seemed like the next rational step to take for me.
Sure.
Granted, I got there and didn't know what the fuck I was doing,
Right.
but I kind of thought, you know what, sometimes you create your fate and sometimes it's revealed. In my case, I followed the revelation as much as I followed any sort of guideline. Because I feel like if you set this is my goal and it has to be achieved at this time. If you don't get that goal, then you get to be disappointed. And I'm going, but your path is your path. That's yours.
Right.
So why would you say that your path is any less valid than somebody else's just because it's not done in what you perceive to be a normal kind of cycle, right?
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people can't take a step back and realize when they're in the struggle. That's the beautiful part of it.
Yeah,
like,
it's exciting.
it's the journey.
Look, as long as you don't hurt anyone else or yourself, and that includes your feelings, that's the way, that's the only rule I've ever had in this house, is we don't hurt anyone else, and that includes their feelings. And you have to kind of take care of yourself and stop berating yourself. I'm not saying I was confident, because I sure as hell wasn't.
Right.
And Sharna, laughs at me all, like, she's like, you were so hypersensitive and you cried all the time. I'm like, because you were a cunt. Like, and that's why I'm a nice teacher, because she was a cunt. And so we laugh about it. I mean, we've literally laughed at each other on panels so much that we're like almost crying. We're like doubled over laughing so hard. But she will not take away that I was hypersensitive, and I will not take away that she was a cunt. I have a feeling I was just sensitive, not hypersensitive.
One night when you were at Northwestern, you were invited to go to IO.
When I was at Northwestern, I actually heard of this audition. It was for a place called Improv Olympic, and they were putting together a college team. My friend Ann Halliday was on it, Stephen Colbert was on it, a bunch of people were on it. I did not make that team.
Right.
For some reason, I just remembered that in the back of my mind, just like I had auditioned for the comedy show at Northwestern only once. It's called The Meow Show, and it's had 50 years of lots of success. And I did get it. And the guy who was the producer that year was a man named Dan Patterson, who started a show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Like, so these things intersected. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I was successful, because I wasn't. I wasn't invited to be anything. Mm-hmm. I wasn't even invited to audition. I just heard about it. So that didn't happen in college. I just like, I did some shows. I was probably terrible at them, but they knew I would rip out my hair in large tufts trying. And so thankfully I was somewhat castable. But once I graduated, I thought, well, I was doing some shows, not very well, and I remembered that place called Improv Olympic, and I thought, well, why not just take a class there?
Yeah.
Like, why don't I see what this is about? This is not about making an audition. I don't even know what improv really is, so let's just try that out. And then when I started doing it, I went, oh, like everyone who falls down the rabbit hole, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I want to continue this.
Right.
No matter how much I struggle, no matter how hard it is, no matter how bad it is, because once you've seen that first show that's incredible, you're like, that's what I want. Now, granted, 80 to 90% of them are horrible, but that 20 to 10% of greatness, you're like, that's what I want, right? What was your first show that you saw that made you go, doing it?
Well, I came up in comedy sports,
right?
And there were so many shows. I was lucky that our manager, he also ran the Shakespeare company in town. So the emphasis,
they improvise Shakespeare?
No, just Shakespeare in general.
Oh, I didn't know there was a Shakespeare in general show. Learn something new every day.
This is in the Quad Cities.
Oh!
Yeah, I'm from the Quad Cities.
I thought you were from outside O'Hare.
Oh, no. And so the emphasis was always on the show first. A synchronicity between Mr. Voice and the keyboardist and everyone working together to build the show.
It's a collaboration.
Yeah.
So you already had that feel of, ooh, I get to be an integral part of a community. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Once you find that, when you find your people, and then your people just keep expanding and you're like, oh, this person's from another country, but they're still our people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you find out, like, what was your first thing when it was, like, improv? And you're like, what's improv? How did you...
It would be that audition sophomore year.
So you went into the audition not knowing what improv really was?
Make-em-ups? I didn't know what the fuck it was. I was a theater major.
Awesome.
And I was a terrible actress. So when I found out I didn't have to memorize something, I mean, I guess I knew I was funny, but I also knew very quickly in improv that if you stand around and say funny things... you have to heighten it by being funnier, and good fucking luck with that. So believe me, I learned quickly, but it was a baptism by fire.
Sure, absolutely.
You see it, you're like, what the fuck is this? You want to know the machinations behind it, you know, and then you kind of immerse yourself, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm fucked for my life.
My story's kind of similar, where my grandma used to send me articles on how to improve my life, and on the back of one of those articles was auditions for comedy sports. So I was like, okay, let me audition for that. And
your grandma did it, man. my grandma gave me a noodle kugel. She would have not known about this.
She didn't either. It just happened to be, it was fate that comedy sports was on the back of this thing.
Look, even if she thought that you weren't confident, and it would give you confidence, not that this would be your life's journey setting up 2 cameras in my house, you know, like, yeah. And codifying all this. This guy's preserving history. If I die tomorrow, my daughter will be glad to see me.
Don't die tomorrow.
None. Thanks for the cross. Otherwise you'd have to do like this. That doesn't work as well. The cross is easy. Although I'm a Jew by name, not necessarily through action.
I made that comedy sports team without knowing what improv was. And I was like, okay, I might be good at this.
Yeah, you are. If you fucking get in for no, okay. I'm comfortable in my spine.
Yeah.
Bring it. I like people. Yeah. Good for you. That's amazing.
So was IO what you expected? And who was your first teacher?
Your first teacher at IO was always Sharna.
Okay.
And then your second teacher was a guy named John Harazal. And then your third teacher was a man named Del Close. I had John Harazal twice because Del was playing I think Polonius and a Wisdom Bridge production of Hamlet. And then I had Del. And you pretty much were required to do that for the rest of your life, is to still study with Del, I think. IO was only 5 years old when I came in. So it still was pretty young, pretty raw when you look at the work now.
Sure.
But God, the people who were in it were amazing.
Right.
Amazing. Like the team that it wasn't Barron's Barracudas for me. Everybody's got a home team that they go, that's the team that made me want to do this more. The team that made me blew my mind was a team called Grime and Punishment.
Okay.
And that was Dave Rosowski, Dave Pasquazi, Mick Napier, Rich Label, Madeline Long was sometimes there as well. She was really good. And who else? I think that might be it. Yeah. And Tim Meadows.
Oh,
well,
wow.
God, I can't believe I forgot Timmy because he was funny as hell. And that was the team. They did this one show that blew me away so hard that I was like, this has to be written.
Right.
It's literally the perfect live discovered sketch. Mm-hmm. It blew my mind. So even when you suck, when you see something that's great, mm-hmm. it's the one thing that fuels you. So if that's what fueled me, God bless.
Absolutely. What's an improv rule that you held close to you, that you followed for so long, and then the older you got, you realized that it was kind of bullshit and you threw it away?
It's pretty much most of them. Because I don't know, maybe I have a tiny bit of oppositional disorder. Maybe that's why it made the annoyance so interesting to mm-hmm. me, that I understand that every building that I'm in, I want to honor. So I don't go in, it's like, I don't go into your house and shit on your floor.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't go into your house and shit. I mean, I want to, but I don't, no, I'm not going to do it. Anyway, but the point being is that I understand, you know what? Look, so many people have disproved rules to me that even yes and... Even when I just started class at University of Chicago again, and it's really basic because 18 out of 20 people will not land in comedy and they just want a good internship interview or be able to look their Trump relatives in the face at Thanksgiving and talk about golden retrievers, So, or make eye contact for Christ's sakes, it's a lot of people are going through shit. But one of the things I said is, I like yes and only because sometimes you do start with a really stupid idea, but then you build, and now you're somewhere Technicolor and you wouldn't be there without that stupid idea, which is now gone. It was just the beginning. It was just an initiation. It's not what the fucking scene is about.
Right.
So I'm not a big fan of who, what, where, because I believe if you give me a teeny bit of specificity, I'll get off on it. But it is nice to agree on fact. For example, if it's 72 degrees, you get to disagree because, you were raised in Florida and it's too cold for you. Yeah. But for me, I have menopause, so 72 is too hot. So I have no problem with any of, I love opinion, but fact makes it a little easier.
I can't pull myself away, even though you do me wrong.
I once argued with Norm about the color of a refrigerator in a scene. I had said avocado, and then he said, no, it's not, it's dada. And I stopped him in the middle of the show, sweat's pouring out of me, and I just sort of looked at him through, it dripping all over me, and I was like, are we really going to argue about the refrigerator? Just because I can't. I just don't have time for it. But I also saw Mick in a show. Playing with Mick is like playing with mercury balls. Like, you shouldn't, but it's fantastic. And he doesn't want to do it, but he's willing to, and then you get it. And, or you get at it. And I was doing a scene where I was showing a computer, and I was like, look at my beautiful shots of the Grand Canyon. He goes, that's not the Grand Canyon, that's the Great Wall of China. And I remember my asshole tensing up, and I thought to myself, this must be what anal sex is like, right? Like, just relax. As long as someone grounds the scene, this is relaxed. So you just kind of go on this crazy ass ride and try to justify it instead of saying, they don't follow the rules. Because I remember a long, long time ago, someone said to me, you know, I get so upset because we as women play by the rules and men just play. And at the time, I don't know how everything I think always evolves and changes, depending on whether I've been schooled or not by someone younger and less experienced than I. But I remember, like, thinking, like, well, what the fuck was I just saying? Jesus, what were we just talking about before?
Rules.
Rule, no, it's farther than rules.
Playing with Nick.
Oh, Mick, thank you.
Yep.
See, now we're back. Thank you. I just, like, they've been disproven so many times that there is never been a rule that I've held so hard and fast, because I've also seen people change characters in the middle of the scene, but doing it deliberately and doing it again, and not because they're playing new characters. They're the same character with a different accent. It was Eddie Furman, who never took a improv class in his whole life, and he landed on main stage. Okay, of Second City.
Right.
The guy's never taken an improv class in his life. And I'm like, well, it's working for Eddie, and the audience loves him, so obviously he's not wrong. I'm going to have to figure it out. It's about the women were saying that we were playing by the rules, and the men were saying that, well, just play. So I thought in my infancy, well, then now I have to play like a guy, which is why people think I'm fearless on stage, which isn't true. I just play.
Right.
But I don't think I play like a man. I just play. But I also think that everybody makes the recipe, so I can't assume that one ingredient is better than another, you know? I don't know.
Absolutely.
And I think people codify it to try to control it. Even like when UCB codified this, I've got friends who love them so fucking hard because that's the way their brain works.
Right.
They're like, here's chess, now learn chess. And I'm going, I don't know, I don't play like that.
Right.
But they play with me and it seems to work.
Sure. Yeah.
So
yeah, I like taking.
it's a potluck.
Yeah.
It's a fucking potluck.
Everyone's
If I
gonna-
go to a potluck and bring a noodle pudding, nobody's gonna turn to me and go, "Why did you bring a a noodle pudding to a potluck?" It's a fucking potluck.
Yeah.
So it's the coalescence of you plus me plus world. I'm not gonna fucking try to patrol and police the way you improvise.
Right.
My job is to adapt to what's in front of me, and that's why I feel like, if nothing else, I've become much more fluid in my work and a lot less rigid. I don't think I've ever been rigid in my work.
Right.
Because I've been taught so many different styles. IO has their, annoyance. Their shit is about taking care of you. Okay? Second City social and political satire. Well, then why am I going through all the buildings?
Right.
And nobody's going, you're not doing it right here. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Maybe joy wins. You know? Maybe funny wins. But even then, I don't push it.
Yeah. Funny always wins. I mean, it's the bring a brick principle. You know, we never know what we're gonna build.
Yeah, why bring a house when you can bring a brick?
Yeah.
So, but that's the problem, though. I always say that it's like you start building a house in the beginning of the scene, then you're like, I fucking hate this house. Why am I building this? So you try to build a koi pond in the middle of the scene. You're like, fuck, I hate this koi pond too. What the fuck is wrong with me? I'm gonna build a retaining wall. And then what you end up with is what I say, which is half a basement, 2 dead fish, and a rock. So anything you hate in improv, you have to go back and add specificity to that shit you hate and have enough time to judge in the middle of the scene. If you're judging it, you're not committing enough.
True.
You recommit. That to me is my biggest thing that I've learned is you recommit when you want to say fuck it to the scene, because then you get the payoff. Because the audience watched the whole thing and liked it until you
Right.
indicated I suck, you suck, and this sucks, and then you've literally told me to hate you. So why bother?
Yeah.
Why not just recommit and love it, because you're so busy doing it, you don't have time to say I hate myself, I wish I were never born, and did I leave the stove on last night, you know?
Yeah. Everyone always just stays. I mean, you're going to be your own biggest critic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been doing this almost 40 years. So, yeah. If you think you're going to judge me, don't think I didn't already do it the second time the show was over. And usually it's shame on you. You did. Because that's why I teach, is so that I stay honest and not a hypocrite. Because when I walk my talk, I fucking rock. I have more fun than anyone else
Sure.
in the world. I win, you win, we all win, we all go, that was a nice night of improv. But if I hate myself and all that shit, or hate my partner, or hate where I am or what I'm doing, it's gonna be a wretched show.
Yeah.
It's like as bad as if I'd started 30 minutes ago instead of almost 40 years ago.
Right.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's so weird. The midnight Saturday night show at Annoyance. We took edibles an hour ago.
Oh, I did that show, remember?
I've done. Yep.
I did it only once, and Jesus, they had taken like who is it who took like 200? He can take 200
I mean,
milligrams.
Kenny is.
He could take
insane.
like 200 milligrams.
Yeah.
Like I'm so. And then came out with this bottle. For those of you who don't know, it's a show where it's pretty self-explanatory. You take your edibles and then you improvise, which protects people who get so scared on stage that they're like deer in headlights scared, because then they could just stand there and stare like they're always doing anyway because they're too fucking high to play. Somebody offered me something in a bottle that they made in their basement. I'm like, no thanks, fucker.
Yeah.
And I think I had like maybe a 10.
Yeah.
But I don't smoke or drink or anything before a show usually anyway, because if I'm awake and alert, it's going to be good. But if I have to like fight to stay awake, it's not as good.
Right.
I will say this. Because I had taken less than anybody else, I actually had a really good time
Yeah.
justifying everything. I had some fun with Jordy and Ryan. I had some fun like dealing with people who were just like, I was able to justify everyone. And that kind of felt good, like as you're walking through some sort of like apocalyptic improv nightmare. So I had a good time. I appreciate the experiment. Never gonna yuck your yum, but isn't my first choice. What I do appreciate is that because they say that in the title versus a team went, let's trip, before the end of this show, the audience is fucked up too.
Right.
The audience took their edibles as well.
Yeah, I like.
So they're
that show.
staring at us, we're staring at them.
Yeah.
Everything worked out fine. I just don't know if that's worth money. That's called my living room or I don't know, whatever.
Was Blue Velveeta the first team you were on?
It's the first real team I was on. Whatever team, it's almost like the David Letterman show. I guess the last writer hired was always the first fired, as what they used to say on his show. And so Sharna would put together a bunch of teams, and they were all called Blind Faith, because you knew that team was going to be ripped apart. And so if you're on Blind Faith, you're like, enjoy that minute that you performing together. And she finally put us on a team called the D team. She had the A team, the B team, the C team. We didn't even get to have a name. We were the D team. And we called ourselves Blue Velveeta. And they just took one look at me. I was the woman on the team, and which was a coup at the time to have a woman. So it's not that they treated you poorly. They were just like, you're a girl. So they were very respectful to me. Our coach was this upstart young man named Mick Napier, and he was fucking brilliant. And he never gave me a rule. He said something that I am sure I am fucking with what he said, but the gist of it was, if you're on stage, you belong there. And for some reason, that sort of tacit approval of me on stage made me fucking fly. So I really resonated with his message. Mick was the first teacher. Del was great in that he affirmed me, because if Del liked you and he wasn't supposed to like you because you're a woman, you felt grateful that he liked you, even though you should be like, oh, fuck yourself, like women. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But, you're fucked up when you're young and stupid. And I was like, he likes me. But I don't think Del taught me, but he affirmed me.
Right.
And I appreciate that. Sometimes that's the lesson.
Sure.
Look, sometimes it's a shitty teacher you get who you look at and you go, I'm never going to treat other people that way.
Right.
Or why did he hit me with a rolled up newspaper in some competitive game? Shouldn't I have asked this human being why they do that? So when I watch my students question what I'm doing, and not like, why are you doing that? But kind of like, why? I appreciate it. And I even appreciate, why are we doing that? So you become better. Because I'm throwing this message in a piece of fucking cheese. That's why you're doing that. Because you won't fucking do anything otherwise. You'll stand on the back line, ironically, in your plaid shirt and then judge everyone. That's why I'm doing this. You know? Yeah. You've never been in a class of mine. Really. You'd know what I mean. It's often not pretty, but everybody comes out happy, so that's good.
That's the goal. If your comedy style had parents, who would they be?
Had parents?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's a good one. Well, I have to say that in my past, the first female comedian that really resonated with me was Lucille Ball, because I was 5 years old, and if you were 5 years old, you got to stay up till 7:30 on a Friday night and watch an I Love Lucy, so that was good. My mom had CBS Saturday and Sunday night was a kind of a big thing for her, so that was Mary Tyler Moore and Rhoda and whatevs. Carol Burnett was on. So those were my initial things. Then I would see out of the corner of my eye my sisters listening to Cheech and Chong on record. And then Monty Python, which I really didn't get or appreciate as a kid as much. That was sort of in the Cheech and Chong kind of thing. But original SNL, I saw Gilda and went, oh, that makes sense to me. Jane Curtin made sense to me too, on a completely opposite spectrum. Same place, but I loved her dryness, and I loved Gilda's just effusiveness and joyfulness and childlike shit, and not being afraid to look stupid. Because I don't care if I look stupid on stage. Off stage, don't fuck with me. On stage, bring it. So I love it. So I would say those were for the women. I loved Bill Murray. He made sense to me. It made me laugh, at least. Trying to think of other people. Albert Brooks made me laugh a lot. Which is bizarre combos. And I bet if you said, well, what did you think of this person? I'd be like, that's funny. So it's not like I had pictures of them on the wall, but of any comedian, because I didn't think that would be my path. I went, oh, I like that. But then again, I also don't watch comedy now. I try not to, even though my friends are starring all of this shit. One thing I will watch is John Lear and Quick Draw. Because Quick Draw is on Hulu, and it takes place in 1875 Kansas. I'll give you the thing later on. Do you have Hulu?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll love it. Only 2 seasons. Takes place in 1875 Kansas, so I can't steal your jokes. That's why I don't watch comedy. I don't want to inadvertently steal your jokes. I'd rather ask about your kids. That's the kind of thing I like to do. But the whole series is improvised, and it's all in the editing. Oh, yeah. John cracked the code. John was the original Geico caveman, but he's the one who cracked the code, I think, really about improv on TV, where the actors have free reign versus Larry David. I think it's funny until it's not. But Larry David, it's more like, here's the outline, and you have to piss off Larry until he yells at you. You know what I mean? It's not like that. This one, the characters have free reign. They don't tell them the plot points. Because then they'll say, I have to get some butter. You know what I mean? They'll do what they're doing. They're just saying they might have a little backstory, but they have their free reign for all their characters. It's brilliant. He also did 10 Items or Less on TBS. That was the first one he did. He was in a production with this woman named Nancy Howler. They were called Howler Productions, and they really cracked the code. And so he develops a lot of stuff for improv, for TV and film, and it's great.
That's pretty cool. Who was on that team?
That team was Jay Leggett, the late great Jay Leggett, who died on his 50th birthday. Was it his 50th birthday? No, it might not have been his 50th birthday. He died after he had just shot a deer, which he did purposefully because he was a hunter. So he died perfectly, although way, way, way too soon. Miss him terribly. Jay Leggett, Mitch Rouse, who is still a brilliant, great creator. Mr. Brendan Sullivan, who I think wrote for John Brandemeyer for a while. Very rational, cool guy. Tommy Booker, who was he was all over the place, and he was a delight. Mr. Kevin Dorff, genius, as far as I'm concerned. Mr. Brian Blondell, who did a lot of heavy lifting. I felt like he felt utility, but I thought he was very great as well. I loved everybody. Brian McCann joined us later on, and he's goddamn funny as fuck. Yeah, they were all quite brilliant. Rarely someone like a Jackie Hoffman would play with us. So it was like when I saw a woman next to me, I'd be like, oh, another woman. But not to be forever. She's brilliant. I toss around brilliant a lot, but people, you are as good as the people around you, and I feel like they lifted me up. It's like Rachel always says, Rachel Mason says, we're like the Marines, we don't leave anyone behind. And I feel like the teamwork was just like intense.
Would you guys go out and hang out a lot?
We would. After rehearsal, they would make me always go down to like, what's the place that everybody goes? Cheeseburger. Yes.
Billy Goats.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'd have to go to the Billy Goat, because that's where Belushi was. Like Mitch definitely had a game plan and a way to see these kind of things in a way that I'd never even considered shit. Mm-hmm. That's why I think sometimes with teams hanging out, you will get just as much, if not more, than playing zip zap zap for fucking 10 hours.
For sure.
Sometimes you just immediately get better.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I'm not saying that you have to declare your deepest, darkest secrets. I really hope you don't unless you choose to. But yeah, just even knowing a teeny bit of specificity about people's lives and feeling like they're connected, then you can do more things that connect you to people.
I can't pull myself away, even though I know you do me wrong. Do me wrong. I can't pull myself away, even though I know you do me wrong.
One of the moments that improv in general clicked to me, our Comedy Sports had a deli that improvisers could work at when they needed more money.
Yes, ma'am.
And I worked there probably longer than improvisers should have worked there. But
It becomes its own bitch of a family, doesn't it? You're like, why do I know that about Artur? Yeah.
But just working there, and everyone who worked there was on the Comedy Sports team, and then just one day it just clicked.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like magic, but it's really placement.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also a great thing when you stop judging other people and you take care of your own fucking side of the street. Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, naturally, other people seem to get better when you start being responsible for yourself. Isn't that weird?
It's the annoyance credo, right? If you take care
Well,
of
you
your-
take care of yourself so you're in a position to take care of other people. But I never understood the got your back, and then they're like, what are you doing? Like, they're like paralyzed and you're like, or give and take becomes you take, no you take, no you, now it's like a piece of shit in the middle and you're like, bish, take.
So the McNapier, so he was your coach. How did
And my teacher.
and your teacher, how did the conversation come about with starting the Annoyance?
The Annoyance, what happened was we were at a place where Improv Olympic was also housed. Cotton Chicago, which turned into another name as well. Cotton Chicago was one place, not far from where the comedy sports used to be on Belmont and where the Annoyance is now. We were doing a show. There was a show that they did called Splatter Theater. I auditioned for Splatter Theater too, and those were people called Metroform. And the people who started that were making a bunch of friends from IU. They were all friends from IU. And so I auditioned for Splatter Theater too. And for some reason, the woman running Cotton Chicago, the fuck else was it called? It's going to piss me off. I'll be like calling you in the middle of the night going, no, and I know what it is. But those people, I guess, took the money because we were subletting money we gave them and shoving it up their nose. And they had 10 and we were by then doing a show called Co-ed Prison Sluts, which was doing extremely well in this tiny upstairs space where it gets so hot that we would bring popsicles to the audience. Like it was super hot. And so we had 10 days to find a new space, which we did miraculously. The money was found, the space was found in 10 days. This guy who had like a unicorn head made with like wood glue on his hair, like he was watching our belongings in the theater. Like everybody was so kind. We found our space and that turned into The Annoyance.
Okay.
And the flagship show that we brought with it was Co-ed Prison Sluts. And then a bunch of people started joining as well and just finding ways to contribute. I think anybody who was disappointed with The Annoyance was disappointed because they had put so much into The Annoyance and they felt that they didn't get what they wanted, when in fact The Annoyance, I think for me, is like not ask what you can do for your country. I mean, ask what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you.
Right.
And then sort of it grows exponentially. But definitely, for all the joys, there were growing pains. And the good news is we were growing, and the bad news is it was painful. So, from a place of that everyone was equal, it kind of sort of turned into an animal farm of some pigs are more equal. And so you just had to kind of navigate that. But I also think that the minute you start getting involved in politics in a place, you're fucked.
Yeah.
When I just did IO, I'd go home crying. When I just did The Annoyance, I went home crying. When I just did Second City, I went home crying. Did all three, stopped crying.
Yeah.
Because I stopped caring about this isn't fair, this isn't right. Again, once I put my blinders on, I said my path is my path. I stopped getting pissy about how everybody else was treated or not treated well. You know what I mean? It just, I couldn't do it. I didn't have enough bandwidth anymore. And I also didn't want to fight, you
Right.
know?
In my opinion, The Annoyance has the best culture for improv theater in the city.
That's a nice thing to hear. That makes me happy. Because
What-
I just went there last Saturday night. I was like, this place is popping. And
Yeah.
when Michael got sick and then a pandemic, I was like, I don't know anybody, you know. And I'm like hoping someone introduces themselves to me, or I hear their name. I'm like, okay, remember that, because it took me a long time to come back. And when I did, I was like, oh my god, I've missed like 5 generations.
Yeah.
So I want to know everyone.
It
and
moves so fast.
it does move so fast. Also, people have different reasons for wanting to do it now. You know, it's not to be on SNL necessarily.
Right.
And maybe it's just to grow your TikTok following. I don't know what the fuck. Oh, I guess TikTok's going away.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever put even one thing on TikTok, so I'm not going to lose a lot
Yeah.
this round.
Neither.
Not this round. We're going to lose the democracy of our country, but we're not going to lose our content.
What was the original goal of
The Annoyance?
Yeah.
I think it was to try to say that I don't want to speak for Mick. I don't want to speak for anybody. This is just what I got out of it. That Mick had a much more subversive and subversive view of comedy. It felt so underground. It was an uncensored space. Because when I went on to main stage, I was actually censored my first show. I was told they were worried I was going to go blue, which is cunty titty fucky, you know, shit like that. Or they were worried because that there was a lot of tour guide buses and things like that coming there, and they wanted to protect the space and the integrity of, at the time, an almost 40-year institution, which I totally get, and that was my responsibility there, is to kind of quell myself. Well, I can say and do whatever I want at The Annoyance, and at the time nobody was going to say to me, you can't say that or you can't do that, where content was protected merely by walking in the building. That is not the case now.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I think any of us from the 90s, late 80s and early and mid 90s, all the 90s, would look at a show at The Annoyance and go, can't bring that back, can't bring that back, won't bring that back, won't bring that back. Because again, what seemed joyful and like 5th graders now could feel ugly and mean-spirited.
Sure.
And we don't want to be those people. So we're constantly figuring out how do we protect content so people will laugh. That is the greatest lesson I learned from Mick, is I'm not interested in alienating my audience.
Right.
Mick once said in the Second City Almanac of Improvisation, which really hit me, he said, if you want to alienate your audience, just stand on the lip of the stage and say, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, until people leave. And I'm not interested in doing that. And he's the first person I've ever heard talk about protecting content. He did it on main stage. There was a scene we were doing that we thought was hysterical, and the wait staff was like, not funny. It was dealing with domestic abuse. And Mick was like, whew, how do we protect this? And he really gave it 150%, and we did these little things that tweaked it. that kind of made it into a dream sequence of the things you'd love to do to somebody, but you just can't because you're a good person, and that immediately protected it all. So we could say it, but we're saying in a way that's saying we're aware that this is hard or ugly or rude or whatever.
Sure.
You know, again, I think that the annoyance is still going to always figure out a way to play smarter.
Yeah.
That's my hope, because I don't think Mick or Jen would allow anything in the building that hurts other people, you
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
unless it's someone who's in power who deserves to be knocked down a peg or two.
Absolutely. Yeah, we always had a rule of trying not to bring, people go to comedy shows for escapism, and so we try not to bring, in the Quad Cities, we would try not to bring up, like, domestic violence or anything like
politics
that.
or things
politics. I mean,
It's so funny that, well, domestic violence, of course, that's obvious. It's not something to make fun of. That wasn't even the point of the sketch. The sketch was she was so fucking stupid that when her husband beat her, like, her friends were like, would keep telling her that he beats you, get the fuck out. And she's like, oh no, he's this, he's that. And they're like, so they have this scene where they're beating the shit out of her
Right.
to try to get the message through.
Sure.
So it was a double whammy. And again, much better in a, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, if you tell me there's a rule, there's a part of me that wants to circumvent it. My hope is just that humans have evolved enough so that we don't have to make rules. But people sometimes love rules. I remember there was a place in Denver, I think it was Bovine Metropolis, that I don't know what, I think I did a show at, where they had like a plaque backstage where it was like, these are the rules. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't this. And rule 10 was, have fun, exclamation point. I'm like, if you keep telling me what the rules are, I'm going to spend more time worrying about the rules
Right.
instead of enjoying myself and hoping that, that my good sense, again, sometimes I have to give the hard note to somebody in class of like, no, you have to protect that content. That's not funny
Right.
because people are going to be hurt.
Sure.
But again, what somebody thinks is funny in their living room might not be funny in life.
Right.
And there are people who are getting permission based on the political landscape of this country to be cruel again. And my suggestion is don't.
Right.
Don't.
Yeah.
You don't get to fucking be horrible to marginalized people. What the fuck is wrong with you? And that even came out in when the pandemic blew up, our city blew up. In terms of George Floyd, and every marginalized group in the city finally had the bravery to say, this has been fucked, and we've just been handling your fuckedness. I understand you can, put as many people of different colors and races and all good things on stage, and sexes and intersexes and all this stuff. And look, he only has one arm, congratulations, or whatever the fuck you think you did to make it seem more equal. But you did protect the actors there once they were with a bunch of people who were emboldened to be assholes in the audience. So I kind of watched it burn and went, good. Good. Out of the ashes start a lot of different little companies. Either the big companies learn to do better and they actually do better and are not just paying lip service, or they will go down as well. Ultimately, I mean, I understand things go in cycles, and maybe it's cool to be cruel now, but is it?
I think now that we're so far removed from 2020, where we'll see this year which companies meant it and which ones didn't enough for people to forget.
Well, if you're owned by real estate investors or by the guy who created Grand Theft Auto, where I think
Right.
the goal is to fuck a whore until she's unrecognizable because she's still dead, stick her in the trunk of the car, go to a pizza parlor, kill everyone in the pizza parlor, and have a nice slice of pizza, and then for free
Yeah.
since everybody's dead now, and then get back in your car and drive away. And then you also put up videos about how flat your stomach is because you're 60 and you found the fountain of youth. I don't know if comedy's number one on your list.
Right.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
As an alumni of all these places, alumna, because I recognize myself as a born and bred lady. I would have to say, I mean, I'm an alumna of these places. I wish everybody well. I wish the best for everyone. I don't wish anybody to fail, including even a big corporation. But they might want to think when whatever they scooped up for their portfolio might not be an immediate moneymaker, that Second City was actually created for the masses. So when you put up an $80 ticket for a regular main stage show in previews, you might want to rethink that again because nobody can afford to see your shit. So it's hard when you balance commerce and art. It's a really hard juggling thing. It's not easy to navigate. I'm sure your shareholders are pissed. I don't know what the fuck is up everybody's ass. Maybe that's why that little hole in the wall, like the Bug House is literally 200 steps from my house. That's why I always say yes, it's 200 steps. I'd be the biggest asshole on the planet if I said no. There's lots of tiny theaters in the city that want nothing more than just to create art, and I want to support everyone. The big box stores, the little box stores, your Etsy's of improv, your God, I used to fucking hate Zoomprov, but I always thought it was like the Bitcoin of improv. But I guess you can make money on Bitcoin, so God bless too, even though there's a finite amount of Bitcoin. I'm not putting my money in because it's too smart for me. Everybody's like, well, that's too bad, Susan, because I just bought my third house. I'm like, I don't understand. So I chew what I can without choking. That's all I try to do, is chew what I can without choking so somebody else doesn't have to save my flat ass.
Logan Square Improv is doing
They're
extremely
fantastic.
well.
I
Yeah.
love them. Love
Me
them.
too.
Love the room. Love the people. It's exciting. I hope they don't grow any faster than they can afford,
Right.
and I don't think they will, because that's the smartest thing of all. Because it's all about the work, and anywhere where they have me fun. One of my favorite shows in my life to do have always happened at the Shithole. The Shithole was somebody's like condemned attic, where you'd have to be kind of a location for something that fits in a 2 foot by 3 foot, you know what I mean? Like, and it's always somebody's closet or attic, you know, whatever. But we couldn't wait to do dumbass shit. Rachel and I love that place. So, again, you're as young as you want to be, and you're as rigid as you have to be. But my goal is to become more expansive as I get older, and not to die tomorrow, so that he doesn't have to go, this is the last interview with that. Yeah.
I can't pull myself away, even though you do me wrong.
Oh yeah, improv helps a lot of shit. Yes, and